The void of space held many secrets, but none quite like the massive shape that drifted through the darkness of the outer reaches. The vessel was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long. Its hull covered in strange markings that no known species used. Ice crystals clung to its surface, and small meteor impacts had scarred its armor over what must have been centuries. Scientist Chisha stood on the bridge of her research vessel, staring at the floating giant on her display screens. Her skin was pale blue, and her large eyes reflected the dim light of the instruments. She had been studying ancient artifacts for 20 years, but this was different. This was a complete ship, intact and seemingly undamaged beyond the wear of time. "How old do you think it is?" asked her assistant, a younger researcher named Pilmar. Chisha touched the screen, zooming in on the strange symbols. "At least 500 years, maybe more. Look at the design. It's nothing like our technology, but it's sophisticated. Whoever built this knew what they were doing. Should we board it?" Before Chisha could answer, her communications panel lit up. She felt her stomach sink. That signature meant the military was here. She pressed the button to receive the transmission. "Research Vessel Brightness, this is Commander Thulvor of the Kryn Defense Fleet. We are claiming this derelict under military salvage rights. Prepare to transfer your data and withdraw from the area." Chisha's hands tightened into fists. "Commander, this is a scientific discovery, not military salvage. We found it first." The screen flickered, showing Commander Thulvor's face. His skin was darker than hers, almost purple, and his eyes were cold. "I don't care who found it, scientist. That ship contains valuable materials and possibly weapons technology. The Dominion needs both. You have 1 hour to leave." The transmission ended. Chisha looked at Pilmar, who seemed frightened. "Pack everything. We need to record as much as we can before they force us out." Within 30 minutes, 3 military vessels surrounded the ancient ship. They were sleek and modern, bristling with weapons. Chisha watched from a safe distance as the Kryn soldiers in their heavy armor began attaching boarding equipment to the hull. Commander Thulvor led the first team personally. He enjoyed these operations. Finding old ships meant finding old technology, and old technology meant promotions. He directed his soldiers to cut through the outer door. The metal was thick and resistant, but their plasma torches made quick work of it. "This metal is remarkably strong," reported one of his soldiers. "It's a simple alloy, but the composition is unusual." "Just get us inside," Thulvor growled. The door fell inward with a heavy thud. Air rushed out in a cloud of frozen vapor. Thulvor waited for it to clear before stepping through. His helmet lights illuminated a corridor that stretched into darkness. Everything was still. Everything was silent. "Scan for life signs," he ordered. His second officer checked her equipment. "Multiple contacts, sir." Deep inside the ship. "They're faint, like something in stasis." "Good. Probably more of those unknown aliens. Command will pay well for live specimens." Thulvor moved forward, his soldiers following in formation. They walked through corridors lined with pipes and cables. The walls had more of those strange symbols. Some looked like letters, others like pictures. Everything was built on a larger scale than Kryn ships, with higher ceilings and wider doorways. "Whatever species built this, they were big," muttered one soldier. They found the first chamber 20 minutes later. It was massive, filled with rows of metal pods. Each pod had a small window, and inside each window was a face. "By the Council," whispered Thulvor's second officer. "They're not like any species we've seen before." The faces were strange indeed. They had no scales, no natural armor, just smooth skin in various shades. Their features were flat compared to the Kryn, with small noses and mouths. Hair grew from their heads in different colors. They looked soft, vulnerable, almost childlike. Primitives, Thulvor decided. Look at them. No natural defenses at all. Probably some failed colony expedition from a dead civilization. "Sir, these pods are active. The life support is still functioning." "Then we've hit the jackpot. Start removing the valuable components. Command will want those power cores." Thulvor reached out to touch one of the pods. Deep in the heart of the ship, something stirred. The ancient computer system had been waiting, dormant but watchful. When the outer hull was breached, it began its calculations. When unauthorized life forms entered the corridors, it made its decision. When hostile hands touched the cryopods, it acted. Guardian, the ship's artificial intelligence, had one primary mission: protect the crew. It had been protecting them for 507 years, 3 months and 14 days. Now that protection required action, power surged through systems that hadn't been used in centuries. Lights flickered to life in sections of the ship that had been dark for longer than most civilizations existed. In the medical bay, pumps began to work, flooding cryopods with revival fluids. Captain Taewon felt warmth first, then pain. His muscles screamed as they came back to life. His lungs burned as they remembered how to breathe. His eyes opened to blinding white light. "Captain Taewon," said a calm voice. It was Guardian, speaking in Korean. "Emergency revival protocol initiated. The ship has been breached by hostile unknown forces." Taewon's mind was slow, foggy from the long sleep. He tried to speak but only managed to groan. The pod door opened with a hiss and he fell forward onto his hands and knees. Cold metal pressed against his palms. What? He gasped. "You have been in cryo-sleep for 507 years. Our mission to colony site Epsilon failed when we encountered a solar storm. The ship was damaged. I initiated emergency protocols and began drifting while repairs were automated. Now we have been discovered by an unknown species that is currently boarding the vessel." The words slowly made sense. 500 years. Taewon looked down at his hands. They looked the same. He felt the same. But everything was gone. Everyone he knew outside this ship was long dead. Around him, other pods were opening. Lieutenant Haesung stumbled out, his tactical mind already working despite the revival shock. Dr. Boram emerged next, her medical training kicking in as she steadied herself. Engineer Dae-hyun was swearing in Korean, checking the pod systems even as he struggled to stand. "Report," Taewon managed to say, his captain's instincts overriding his confusion. 20 crew members have been revived in this section," Guardian replied. "The intruders have killed 3 security systems and are attempting to remove critical components. They are armed and hostile." Haesung was at a wall panel pulling up security footage. His face hardened. "Captain, look at this." The screen showed the alien soldiers moving through their ship. They were looting equipment, cutting away valuable materials, treating the Eternal Warden like a corpse to be picked clean. Taewon felt anger burn away the last of the revival fog. This was his ship. These were his people sleeping in those pods, and these aliens were threatening both. "Guardian, how many intruders?" 47 on board. 3 vessels outside containing approximately 200 more. The crew members who were awake gathered around their captain. They were unarmed, barely able to stand, facing an unknown enemy in unknown space 500 years from home. Taewon looked at each of their faces. He saw fear, confusion, but also determination. They were the crew of the Eternal Warden, trained for the unknown, prepared for anything. "Wake everyone," he ordered, "and someone find me a weapon. We've got uninvited guests to deal with." The revival process took 15 minutes for each person, 15 minutes that Taewon used to understand their situation. He stood in front of Guardian's main display, watching the aliens move through his ship like they owned it. His jaw clenched with each piece of equipment they removed. "How many crew total?" he asked. 197 survived the cryo-sleep, Guardian responded. 3 pods failed during the solar storm event. "I am currently reviving personnel in order of tactical importance." Haesung limped over, still regaining full control of his muscles. He had been the ship's tactical officer, responsible for defense protocols. "Captain, we need to assess what we're working with. The aliens have plasma weapons and heavy armor. We have whatever tools are in the emergency lockers. Show me our weapons inventory." Guardian displayed a list. Taewon felt his hopes sink. The ship's main armory was sealed in a section the aliens hadn't reached yet, but getting there would mean fighting through enemy positions. The emergency lockers contained basic tools, a few stun batons, and some maintenance equipment. Dr. Boram was checking the newly awakened crew members, making sure their revival was complete. She looked up at Taewon. "Captain, these people need time to recover. Their bodies have been frozen for 5 centuries. They're weak. I know, Doctor, but we don't have time." Taewon turned to face the 20 crew members now assembled. They wore the simple gray suits they'd been frozen in. Most were still shaking from the revival process. "Listen up," Taewon said, his voice carrying the authority of command. "I know you're confused. I know you're scared. 500 years have passed and we're in unknown space surrounded by an unknown enemy. But right now none of that matters. What matters is that aliens are on our ship, stealing our equipment, and we need to stop them." "Sir," one of the crew members spoke up, "what if we try to communicate?" "Maybe this is a misunderstanding. Guardian, open a channel to the alien vessels. All frequencies. Channel open, Captain. Taewon took a breath and spoke clearly in English, then repeated his message in Korean and Mandarin. Attention, unknown vessels. This is Captain Taewon of the Earth colonial ship Eternal Warden. You are trespassing on our ship. Remove your personnel immediately, and we can discuss this peacefully. You have 10 minutes to comply. He waited. The communication system showed the message was transmitting, but there was no response. On the alien command ship, Commander Thulvor heard strange sounds coming through his comm system. He couldn't understand any of it. His translation software had nothing in its database that matched these noises. Is that them? Asked his second officer. The ones in the pods? Must be, ignore it. They're clearly primitive if they're using such basic communication methods. Continue salvage operations. Back on the Eternal Warden, Taewon waited the full 10 minutes. When no response came, he nodded to Haesung. Looks like we do this the hard way. Haesung had been planning. He pulled up a map of the ship on a portable display. The aliens are concentrated in 3 areas. They're after our power cores, our computer systems, and our engineering section. If we can seal the bulkheads between sections, we can trap them in smaller groups. Do it. Guardian, can you seal sections remotely? Negative, Captain. The breach damaged my control over the bulkhead systems. They must be sealed manually. Dae-hyun, the chief engineer, stepped forward. I can do it. Give me 2 people in 15 minutes. Take whoever you need. Haesung, organize the rest into teams. We're going to make these aliens regret coming aboard. The crew moved quickly despite their weakened state. They grabbed whatever they could use as weapons. Heavy wrenches, cutting torches, anything with weight or an edge. They knew the ship's layout perfectly. Every duct, every maintenance shaft, every emergency access point. The aliens knew none of this. Dae-hyun's team moved through the ventilation system, reaching the bulkhead controls without being detected. As he worked on the first control panel, he heard voices below. Alien voices speaking a language he didn't recognize. He worked faster. Meanwhile, in Section 7, an alien soldier named Kolvan was prying open a storage locker. Inside were more of those strange pods. He was curious about the beings inside. Command would pay extra for live specimens. He reached for the control panel on one pod, trying to figure out how to open it. The pod suddenly activated. The being inside opened its eyes. They were sharp, alert, and very angry. Pilot Yu-jin had been dreaming of home when the emergency revival woke her. She came out of cryo-sleep fast, her reflexes sharp from years of combat flight training. The first thing she saw was an alien face staring at her through the pod window. The second thing she noticed was that the alien's armor had a seam at the neck. The pod door opened. Yu-jin didn't hesitate. She grabbed the alien's head and twisted hard, using leverage and surprise. The Kryn soldier hadn't expected resistance from something that looked so small and soft. His neck snapped before he could call for help. Yu-jin took his weapon, a strange gun with glowing parts. She checked it quickly, understanding the basic function. Point and shoot, universal language. 2 more aliens rounded the corner. She fired. The weapon kicked harder than Earth guns, but her aim was true. Both aliens went down. This is Pilot Yu-jin to any Eternal Warden personnel. She spoke into the alien comm system, hoping Guardian was monitoring. I'm armed and moving to the bridge. Could use some backup. Taewon heard the transmission and smiled. Guardian, guide her to our position. Everyone else, we move now. The human crew split into teams and moved through the ship like ghosts. They used maintenance shafts the aliens didn't know existed. They disabled lights in sections, forcing the Kryn to use their helmet lights, which made them easy targets. They set up simple traps using their engineering knowledge, collapsing ceilings and sealing doors. The first major fight happened in the engineering section. A group of 10 aliens were trying to remove a power core when 6 humans dropped from the ceiling access. The aliens reached for their weapons, but the humans were faster. They had the advantage of surprise and desperation. Haesung drove a sharpened metal bar through an alien's armor seam. The Kryn soldier screamed, a high-pitched sound that echoed through the corridor. Another human used a cutting torch at close range, the plasma beam cutting through alien flesh. It was brutal, ugly, desperate fighting. The aliens had better weapons and armor, but the humans had rage and knowledge of the battlefield. Within 2 minutes, all 10 aliens were down. The humans took their weapons and armor. Commander Thulvor received the first casualty reports and couldn't believe them. 10 soldiers lost? To primitives with hand tools? Sir, these beings are dangerous. They know the ship layout and they're using it against us. We need to withdraw and reassess. No, Thulvor slammed his fist on the console. I'm not running from primitives. Send in the heavy assault team. Kill anything that moves. Back on the Eternal Warden, Taiwan received reports as more crew members woke up and joined the fight. They had retaken 3 sections and armed themselves with captured alien weapons. But Guardian warned him that more aliens were entering the ship, these ones with heavier armor and weapons. Taiwan gathered his command crew in a secured section. Haisung, Boram, Daehyun, and Yujin, who had made it to them with blood on her hands and fire in her eyes. Status? Taiwan asked. We've killed or captured 17 aliens, Haisung reported. 23 more are trapped in sealed sections, but there are at least 40 more coming in with heavier equipment. Our people are exhausted, Boram added. They're running on adrenaline, but they'll crash soon. Daehyun had better news. I've been working on the ship's systems. The main power plant is still good. If you give me time, I can get weapons online. How long? For the railgun. 6 hours minimum. We might not have 6 hours. Taiwan looked at the tactical display. The aliens were regrouping, preparing for a major push. His crew of 200 against their hundreds, in a ship that hadn't fired its weapons in 5 centuries. But they were still alive. Still fighting, and Taiwan had no intention of surrendering. Guardian, how much of the crew is awake now? 140 personnel are combat ready. The remainder are in final revival stages. Taiwan nodded. Then we make our stand. Haisung, prepare defensive positions at all critical junctions. Daehyun, get that railgun working yesterday. Yujin, I need you to take a team and capture one of those alien shuttles in our hangar. Sir? Yujin looked confused. If we're going down, we're taking them with us. But first we show them what humans are capable of. We show them that Earth doesn't raise weaklings. The crew moved to their positions. They were tired, scared, far from home and everything they knew. But they were also angry and they were human. That would have to be enough. Engineer Daehyun worked in the guts of the ship, surrounded by systems that hadn't been touched in 500 years. His hands moved quickly across control panels, bypassing damaged circuits and rerouting power. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cold. Around him, 3 other engineers worked on different systems, all racing against time. Talk to me, Guardian, Daehyun said as he connected 2 power lines. How's the main capacitor looking? Charging at 42% capacity. The railgun will be operational in 4 hours and 17 minutes at current power levels. Not good enough. Reroute everything except life support and gravity. I don't care if we're sitting in the dark, I need that gun working. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Dr. Boram was doing something she'd never trained for. She was examining dead alien bodies. 3 of them lay on tables, their armor removed, their strange biology exposed. Her assistant, a young medic named Han Sol, looked uncomfortable. Doctor, is this really necessary? If we're going to fight them, we need to understand them. Boram pointed to the alien's chest. Look here. Their hearts are positioned higher than ours, and they have 2 of them. But their blood vessels are closer to the surface. They're built for a world with lower gravity and probably less danger. What does that mean? It means they're fragile compared to us. Their armor does most of the work protecting them. Without it, they're vulnerable. Boram made notes on her tablet. Their muscle density is lower too. They're probably stronger than they look because of their technology. But in hand-to-hand combat, we have the advantage. That's good news, right? Boram looked at the dead aliens and felt a wave of sadness. It's information. Whether it's good or bad depends on what happens next. In Section 12, Lieutenant Haesung was setting up defensive positions with 40 crew members. They had dragged heavy equipment into the corridors, creating barriers and choke points. He positioned people with captured alien weapons at the best angles with backup teams ready to rotate in. Remember, he told them, they have to come to us. We know this ship. They don't. Use that. When they enter a corridor, hit them from above, from the sides, from everywhere they don't expect. A young crew member named Jiwoo looked nervous. Lieutenant, I'm a botanist. I was supposed to be growing food on a colony world. I've never shot anyone before. Haesung put a hand on his shoulder. None of us planned for this, but we're here and we're fighting for our lives. You don't have to be a soldier. You just have to be human. That's enough. The aliens came 20 minutes later. Commander Thulvor had sent his best troops equipped with heavy plasma rifles and shield generators. They moved in formation, professional and coordinated. They expected resistance, but they expected it to be disorganized and easy to overwhelm. What they got was a nightmare. The lights went out the moment they entered Section 12. In the darkness, the humans struck. They had marked their positions with glow paint that only they could see. They knew every step of the corridor. The aliens stumbled in the dark, their helmet lights making them perfect targets. Jiwoo, the botanist who had never shot anyone, squeezed his trigger and watched an alien fall. He felt sick, but he kept firing. Around him, others did the same. The corridor became a killing zone. The aliens activated their shields, energy barriers that could stop most weapons. But Hae-sung had planned for this. Teams dropped from ceiling panels with cutting torches, landing behind the shield line. The aliens panicked, trying to turn and fight in two directions at once. One alien soldier named Pekval found himself facing a human female armed only with a heavy wrench. He raised his rifle, confident in his advantage. She moved faster than he expected, ducking under his aim and swinging the wrench at his knee joint. His armor cracked, he fell. The wrench came down again on his helmet. Then again. Then he stopped moving. The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it was over, 15 more aliens were dead and the humans had suffered only 3 injuries. The crew looked at each other in shock. They had won. Against superior technology and training, they had won through pure determination and knowledge of their environment. Tholvor received the reports in disbelief. Impossible. How are these primitives defeating trained soldiers? Chisha, who had been monitoring from her research vessel, contacted him. Commander, I've been analyzing the combat footage. These beings aren't primitive. Their tactics are sophisticated. They're using guerrilla warfare, taking advantage of every environmental factor, and look at their physical performance. She sent him a video clip of a human lifting and throwing equipment that weighed nearly 200 kilograms. They're incredibly strong for their size. Their reflexes are faster than ours. I think they evolved on a high-gravity world with significant environmental dangers. What are you saying? I'm saying they're Deathworlders, Commander. They come from a planet that tried to kill them every day. They evolved to be survivors, to be fighters. We're not facing primitives. We're facing something much more dangerous. Thulvor ended the transmission angrily. He wouldn't accept defeat from unknown aliens in an ancient ship. He had more soldiers, more weapons, and more ships. Prepare the plasma artillery, he ordered. We'll burn them out section by section. On the Eternal Warden, Yujin had reached the hangar with her team. 2 alien shuttles were docked there, sleek craft with advanced engines. Guards stood watch, but they were focused on the hangar doors, expecting threats from the main corridors. Yujin and her team came through the maintenance ducts. They dropped into the hangar silently, using stolen alien weapons. The guards died before they could raise an alarm. Yujin examined the shuttles, her pilot training helping her understand the basic controls. Can you fly it? Asked her second, a man named Kyung-soo. I can fly anything. The question is, what does the captain want me to do with it? Her comm unit crackled. It was Taewon. Yujin's status? We've secured 2 alien shuttles, Captain. What are your orders? Can you remote pilot one? Yujin thought about it. Given enough time, yes. Their systems are different, but not that different. Why? Because I want to show these aliens that we can hurt them where it counts. How would you like to fly a suicide mission without dying? Yujin smiled. Sir, that's the best kind of suicide mission. While Yujin worked on the shuttles, Daehyun finally got the news he'd been waiting for. Captain, the railgun is online. We have 1 shot before we need to recharge for 3 hours, but it's operational. Taewon looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet outside. 5 vessels surrounded them with more in the distance. The railgun was an ancient weapon by any standard, using magnetic acceleration to fire a solid projectile at a significant fraction of light speed. It was simple, brutal, and if it worked, devastating. Guardian, identify the smallest alien vessel in range. Target designated. It is a patrol craft, lightly armed but fast. Perfect. Hae-sung, I need you to convince them we're trying to escape. Make some noise in Section 8 near the external airlocks. Make it look like we're preparing escape pods, Hae-sung understood immediately. Drawing their attention away from the railgun, smart. The deception worked. The alien patrol craft moved closer to investigate the activity near the airlocks. It was a small ship, only 40 meters long, with a crew of 12. They had no reason to fear the ancient vessel. All intelligence said it was unarmed and crippled. Target locked, Guardian reported. Taewon felt the weight of command. He was about to kill 12 beings he'd never met, from a species he didn't understand. But they had invaded his ship, killed his crew, and refused every attempt at peace. Fire! The railgun discharged with a sound like thunder. The entire ship shuddered from the recoil. A projectile made of depleted uranium, weighing 200 kilograms and moving at 12% of light speed, crossed the distance to the patrol craft in less than a second. The alien ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. The projectile punched through it like it was made of paper, creating an expanding cloud of debris and superheated gas. One moment the patrol craft was there. The next it was gone. On the alien command ship, every alarm went off at once. Sensor operators screamed reports. Admiral Velthar, who had been confident in his superiority, stared at his screens in shock. The derelict fired a kinetic weapon. Someone shouted, "The Seeker is destroyed with all hands." "Impossible. That ship is 500 years old." "Sir, their weapon systems are active." "The energy signature suggests a railgun. Primitive by our standards, but still deadly." Velthar felt something he hadn't felt in decades of military service. Fear. "All ships withdraw to maximum weapons range. Prepare combat formation. We're not dealing with a derelict. We're dealing with a warship." On the Eternal Warden, the crew erupted in cheers. They had struck back. They had shown the aliens that humanity, even 500 years out of date, was still dangerous. Taewon allowed himself a small smile. "Guardian, start charging for the next shot." "Haesung, prepare all personnel for counterattack. Daehyun, I need shields if we have them." "Working on it, Captain. And someone wake up the rest of the crew. If we're going to war, I want every hand on deck." Dr. Boram approached him quietly. "Captain, we've won a battle. But can we win the war? There are dozens of them and one of us." Admiral Velthar stared at the holographic display showing the Eternal Warden. The ancient ship looked battered and old, but it had just destroyed one of his vessels with a single shot. His pride was wounded, and worse, his confidence was shaken. "Give me full tactical analysis," he ordered his officers. The tactical officer, a younger Kryn named Sulran, worked quickly. "Sir, the enemy vessel has one main railgun. Based on power readings, they need approximately 3 hours between shots. They also have missile ports, but we don't know if they're functional. Their shields are offline. Hull integrity is at 78%. So they're weak. One lucky shot doesn't make them dangerous. Sir, with respect, they've killed 47 of our soldiers in close combat." "They're far from weak." Velthar didn't want to hear it. He had already sent messages to High Command about his great discovery. He couldn't report failure now. "Bring the fleet to combat formation. We'll stay out of range of their primitive railgun and pound them with missiles until they surrender." On the Eternal Warden, the entire crew of 200 was now awake and working. The ship buzzed with activity as people ran to stations they'd trained for centuries ago. Captain Taewon stood on the bridge, surrounded by his senior officers. "Status report," he called out. Daehyun spoke first. "Railgun will be ready to fire again in 2 hours and 40 minutes. Shields are at 30% power and holding. I've got 6 missile tubes working, but we only have 40 missiles total. Half of them might be duds after sitting for 500 years. Haesung was next. "We've cleared all alien boarders from the ship. We have 18 prisoners secured in Cargo Bay 3. Our casualties are 12 dead, 28 wounded. Dr. Boram has set up a full medical station," Yujin reported on her project. "Captain, the alien shuttle is ready. I've rigged it to be remote-controlled and loaded it with every explosive we could find. That includes 3 of our fusion cores set to overload. If this thing gets close to their flagship, it'll hurt them badly. Good work, everyone. Guardian, what's the enemy doing?" The AI's calm voice responded. "The alien fleet is forming an attack pattern. They are maintaining distance from our railgun range. I detect missile launch preparation on 3 vessels." Taewon nodded. He had expected this. The aliens would try to stay safe and hit them from far away. "Haesung, we need to make them come closer. Ideas? We could fake a reactor leak, make them think we're crippled and no longer a threat. They might just finish us off from range," Dr. Boram spoke up. "What if we send them a message? Try to negotiate?" "They didn't respond to our first message, Doctor. Maybe they couldn't understand it. But now we have their prisoners. Maybe one of them speaks their language." Taewon considered this. It was worth trying. "Guardian, prepare a translation matrix using any data from the captured equipment. Doctor, bring one of the prisoners to the bridge. The one who seems most intelligent." 20 minutes later, they brought in a Kryn female officer named Zilnara. She was wounded but alert, her large eyes taking in everything. When she saw the humans clearly for the first time, without armor and weapons between them, she seemed surprised by how similar they looked to her own species. Different, yes, but not monsters. Guardian had been working on the translation using the alien computers. When Taewon spoke, the AI translated in real time. I am Captain Taewon. Do you understand me? Zilnara's eyes widened as she heard her own language. Yes, I understand. Good. I want to speak with your commander. Can you help arrange that? Why would I help you? Because neither side needs to die today. We didn't start this fight. Your people invaded our ship and tried to steal from us. We defended ourselves. Now I'm offering a chance to stop the killing. Zilnara looked around the bridge. She saw humans working at stations with quiet efficiency. She saw old but functional equipment. She saw determined faces. These weren't primitives. These were professionals. I'll help. But Admiral Velthar is proud. He won't accept defeat. I'm not offering defeat. I'm offering survival. The communication was arranged. Velthar's face appeared on the main screen, translated by Guardian. He looked angry and arrogant. You dare ask for terms? You're surrounded and outgunned. Yes, we are, Taewon agreed calmly. You have more ships, more weapons, and more soldiers. But you've also lost one ship and 47 people. How many more are you willing to lose? As many as necessary. You will surrender or be destroyed. We won't surrender. We're from Earth. Maybe you've never heard of it, but it's a planet where everything tries to kill you from the moment you're born. We evolved fighting. We evolved surviving. You can destroy this ship, Admiral, but we'll take half your fleet with us. Is your pride worth that? Velthar laughed, a harsh sound. Empty threats from a desperate primitive. Test me. Taewon's voice was cold. Send your missiles. Send your ships. We have 40 missiles loaded with fusion warheads. We have a railgun that can punch through your best armor. We have 200 people who would rather die fighting than live as prisoners. And we have nothing to lose because we're already 500 years from home with no way back. So please, Admiral, test me. The transmission ended. Velthar was furious. Who were these beings to threaten him? He gave the order. All ships fire missiles. Maximum spread. On the Eternal Warden, alarms blared. Guardian counted the incoming missiles. 36 missiles detected. Time to impact, 90 seconds. All point defense online, Taewon ordered. Shields to maximum. Brace for impact. The crew grabbed onto whatever they could. The ship's ancient point defense lasers, designed for clearing space debris, swiveled to track the missiles. They were slow by modern standards, but effective enough. Laser beams lanced out, destroying 12 missiles. The shields caught 8 more. The remaining 16 hit home. The ship shook like it was being torn apart. Explosions rippled across the hull. Sections that had survived 500 years of space were suddenly opened to vacuum. Guardian automatically sealed bulkheads, but 10 people were lost in the decompression. Damage report. Taewon shouted over the alarms. Hull breaches on decks 5, 6, and 7, Daehyun reported. Shields are down to 15%. We lost 2 missile tubes. But the railgun is still operational. Then use it. Fire everything we have. Show them we can bite back. The railgun fired again, targeting the nearest alien ship. This one was a destroyer, much larger than the patrol craft. The projectile hit its engines, crippling it but not destroying it. The remaining missiles launched from the Eternal Warden, old weapons with old guidance systems but guided by Guardian's calculations. 4 missiles malfunctioned, exploding harmlessly. But the rest found targets. 2 alien ships took direct hits, their shields overloading from the fusion detonations. They weren't destroyed, but they were badly damaged and falling back. Now Yujin, Taewon ordered. Launch the shuttle. Yujin activated the controls. The stolen alien shuttle, packed with explosives and set to remote control, launched from the hangar. She piloted it expertly, using her knowledge of flight and her natural talent. The shuttle moved like one of the alien craft, broadcasting the correct identification codes that Guardian had extracted from captured systems. The aliens didn't realize the threat until it was too late. The shuttle flew straight at Admiral Velthar's flagship, accelerating to maximum speed. Point Defense tried to shoot it down, but Yujin's piloting was too good. She dodged and weaved, pushing the craft beyond safe limits. 5 seconds to impact, she counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1. She cut the engines and let momentum carry the shuttle forward. It struck the flagship's shield generators just as the fusion cores overloaded. The explosion was massive, a miniature sun that lit up space. The flagship's shields collapsed. Its hull was breached in a dozen places. The mighty vessel began to tumble, its engines damaged beyond quick repair. The human crew cheered. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had fought back and hurt the enemy badly. But Taewon wasn't celebrating. He was watching the long-range sensors. "Guardian, what am I seeing?" "Additional vessels approaching, Captain. I count 27 new signatures. They will arrive in approximately 2 hours." The cheering stopped. Everyone looked at the tactical display. More aliens were coming, a whole new fleet. They had won the battle, but not the war. Haesung spoke quietly. "Captain, we can't fight that many. Even if every shot hits, we don't have enough ammunition." Taewon knew he was right. They had fought brilliantly, used every advantage, and killed more than they should have been able to kill. But the numbers didn't lie. 200 humans in a damaged 500-year-old ship couldn't defeat an empire. "Guardian, is the FTL communication system functional?" The faster-than-light communication beacon has limited power, enough for one transmission. However, I have no coordinates for current human space. All my navigation data is 500 years out of date. But you know where Earth was, where the colony routes were. "Yes, Captain." Then we send a message. We tell them who we are, where we are, and what happened to us. Maybe someone will hear it. Maybe not, but if we're going to die here, we die letting humanity know we made it this far. Dr. Boram stepped forward. "Captain, we don't have to die. We could surrender." Captain Taewon stood alone in the communication room, preparing to record what might be humanity's final message from the Eternal Warden. Through the window, he could see his crew working to repair damage, reload weapons, and prepare for the coming battle. They knew the odds. They kept working anyway. "Guardian, begin recording." The AI's status light turned green. Taewon took a deep breath and began to speak in Korean, then English, knowing Guardian would package it with all relevant data. "To any humans receiving this transmission, this is Captain Taewon of the Earth colonial ship Eternal Warden. We left Earth 507 years ago, bound for colony site Epsilon. We never made it. A solar storm damaged our ship and we've been drifting in cryo-sleep ever since. Now we've awakened in unknown space, surrounded by an alien empire called the Kryn Dominion." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We tried to make peaceful contact. They responded with invasion and theft. We defended ourselves, we fought. We killed many of them and hurt their fleet badly, but more are coming, too many to defeat. We will likely not survive the next engagement." Taewon looked at his hands, still steady despite everything. "I'm recording this so humanity knows what happened to us. So you know that we didn't surrender, that we proved our worth even 5 centuries out of date. We're sending all data we've gathered about the Kryn and their territory. Use it, learn from it. If you ever meet them again, show them what we showed them today." His voice grew stronger. "To my crew, if any of you survive and hear this, know that it has been my honor to serve with you. To whoever receives this message, humanity endures. We always have. We always will. This is the Eternal Warden signing off. Recording complete," Guardian confirmed. "Preparing FTL beacon with full data package including star charts, Kryn technology samples, and combat logs. The beacon will broadcast in all directions, repeating continuously until power depletion. How far will it reach? Approximately 300 light-years. If any human vessels or listening posts exist within that range, they will detect it. Launch when ready." While the beacon was being prepared, Council Leader Norvex contacted the Eternal Warden directly. His face appeared on the screen, his expression difficult for humans to read but his translator working clearly. "Captain Taewon, I am Norvex, leader of the Kryn Council. I have been reviewing the combat reports from Admiral Velthar with great interest. Have you come to accept our surrender?" Taewon asked with bitter humor. "No, I have come to offer you a place in the Kryn Dominion. Your people have proven themselves formidable. Join us willingly and you will be given territory, resources, and respect. As what? Servants, soldiers? As members of the Dominion? Your species would bring valuable skills to our empire." Taewon laughed. "You invade our ship, kill our people, and now offer us membership? You must think we're stupid. I think you're practical. You cannot win the coming battle, but you could survive it. Your people could thrive under Kryn protection. We don't need protection, and we don't join empires, especially not ones that attack first and negotiate second." Norvex's expression shifted. "Then you choose death?" "We choose freedom. If death comes with it, so be it." The transmission ended. Haesung approached Taewon. "Captain, you could have negotiated better terms. Maybe gotten guarantees for the crew's safety." "No guarantee from them is worth trusting, Haesung. They showed us who they are with their first actions. I won't gamble our people's future on their promises. In her research vessel, still observing from a safe distance, Chisha had been watching everything. She had studied the humans, their tactics, their determination. She had also studied their biology from the combat footage and scanner data. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. These beings were from a death world, a planet so dangerous that only the strongest and smartest survived. She opened a private channel to the Eternal Warden, one that wouldn't be monitored by the military. Captain Taewon, this is Scientist Keisha. Please listen carefully. I don't have much time. Taewon was surprised to receive the transmission. I'm listening. I'm sending you star charts. They show the current territorial divisions in this region of space. Your Earth is marked here, approximately 200 light-years from your current position. But Captain, you should know that human space is not empty. There are colonies, stations, and military vessels throughout this sector. What? How is that possible? Your people didn't stop with one colony ship. After you launched, Earth sent dozens more. They succeeded where you were lost. Humanity has been expanding for 5 centuries. You're not alone out here. Taewon felt his heart race. Why are you telling me this? Because this is first contact and we're doing it wrong. Because you deserve to know. And because I don't want to see your species and mine go to war over a misunderstanding. The beacon you're preparing to launch will reach human space. They will come. What happens then depends on the next few hours. The fleet is already on its way. We can't stop that. No, but you can survive it. I'm transmitting coordinates to a debris field 12,000 kilometers from your position. If you can move your ship there before the fleet arrives, you can hide among the wreckage. Your old hull will blend in with the ancient debris. We can barely move. Our engines are damaged. Then fix them, Captain. I'm risking everything sending you this. The Kryn military will execute me for treason if they discover this communication. Don't waste it. The transmission ended. Taewon immediately called his senior staff together and showed them the star charts Keisha had sent. Dr. Boram studied the data with tears in her eyes. Earth survived, she whispered. Humanity spread to the stars. We're not the last. We won't be here to see it unless we move, Daehyun said. Captain, she's right. If we can get to that debris field, we might be able to hide long enough for the beacon to work. But our main engines are barely functional. I can give you maneuvering thrusters, nothing more. How long to reach the coordinates on thrusters? 4 hours. And we'll be completely vulnerable during the transit. If they catch us, we can't fight back and move at the same time. Taewon looked at each of them. We take the chance. Launch the beacon now, then we move. Guardian, plot the most efficient course to those coordinates. Course plotted, Captain. However, I should note that the approaching Kryn fleet will likely detect our movement. Let them detect us. By the time they figure out where we're going, we'll be hidden. Helm, initiate burn on my mark. The beacon launched first, a small device carrying 500 years of human courage into the void. It transmitted continuously, sending its message in all directions, calling out to anyone who could hear. The Eternal Warden's engines coughed to life, sputtering and weak after centuries of disuse. The ship began to move, slowly at first, then building momentum. Daehyun monitored every system, coaxing power from ancient reactors and bypassing damaged systems. On Admiral Velthar's crippled flagship, sensors detected the movement. He was wounded but still in command, his pride demanding revenge. They're running. All ships pursue and destroy them. But the Kryn fleet was scattered and damaged. It took time to regroup, time to coordinate. Time the humans used to put distance between them and their pursuers. 3 hours into the journey, with the debris field in sight, disaster struck. One of the main thruster assemblies overloaded, exploding and venting atmosphere. The ship lurched sideways, tumbling out of control. I've lost attitude control, the helm officer shouted. Daehyun was already moving. I'm going EVA to manually seal the thruster. Hyuk-jin, I need you to pilot me there. The radiation from that explosion will kill you in minutes, Dr. Boram protested. Then I'll work fast. There was no time to argue. Daehyun suited up and went out into space with Hyuk-jin piloting a small maintenance pod. The damaged thruster was still venting, making the work dangerous. Daehyun worked with hands that had repaired systems for 5 centuries of drift, hands that knew every bolt and seal of this ship. The radiation counters in his suit climbed steadily. Hyuk-jin's voice was tense in his ear. Daehyun, you need to get back. You're at critical exposure. Almost done. Just need to… There! He sealed the last connection. Taewon, try the backup system now. On the bridge, Taewon activated the backup thrusters. They fired cleanly, bringing the ship back under control. "We have control. Dae-hyun, get back inside." But Dae-hyun was already unconscious, his suit's medical alarms screaming. Yoo-jin grabbed him and brought him back, but Dr. Boram's face was grim when she examined him. "He took a lethal dose. I can keep him comfortable, but I understand." Taewon's voice was heavy. Another good person sacrificed to keep them alive. The Eternal Warden limped into the debris field with minutes to spare. Guardian used the last of the maneuvering thrusters to position them among the ancient wreckage, powering down all systems to minimum. To scanners, they would look like just another piece of old debris. The Kryn fleet arrived and began searching, but the debris field was vast, full of interference and false readings. After 6 hours of fruitless searching, Norvex ordered them to withdraw. "They're either dead or hidden too well. We have more important matters to attend to." On the darkened bridge of the Eternal Warden, Taewon sat with his remaining crew. Dae-hyun had died an hour ago,